What's the worst thing about Terraria? I recently asked you guys that very question on a community post and I got a ton of responses. So today we're going to be going over a few of them and seeing if you guys are correct or not about the worst things in Terraria. As always, make sure to subscribe if you enjoy content like this and want to be a part of it, and let's get started. The new player experience. I've had several friends that I've tried to introduce to Terraria, and each time their main complaint is that they have no idea what to do. Everybody seems to say these days that Terraria is impossible for new players, and I think that there's very good reason for that. Don't get me wrong, there are ways that new players can progress, like looking up guides on YouTube, or looking up stuff on the wiki, or asking their friends for help, but most players just don't want to do that when they're doing their first playthrough of a game. There are a lot of things in Terraria that you would just never really think to do that you literally have to do to make progress. Breaking 3 shadow orbs to summon the Eater of Worlds, throwing a guide voodoo doll into lava to summon the Wall of Flesh. There is a level of excitement and intrigue whenever you have a bunch of unexplained little things that could go wrong at any time, but with Terraria those things stack up so much that the game becomes so intimidating for new players. When it comes to how to fix this, I don't really know. Obviously they could make the guide even better and more explicit, but at the same time I feel like that's a very lazy solution, and for a lot of players it kind of takes you out of the immersion when you have to talk to this NPC who just magically knows everything. Look at The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, where there's an extremely helpful fairy called Navi that helps you, yet everybody hates her because being able to learn everything about the game through a fairy instead of discovering it on your own is just weird. I don't know specifically how Terraria would fix the new player experience, but I agree that as of right now, it's pretty bad. Respawn time 100%. This is definitely a smaller problem with Terraria, but it is a very annoying one. Whenever you're in expert mode or master mode, the respawn times in Terraria are increased, and they are increased way too much. For a lot of players, this is really annoying, not because it ruins the entire experience of the game, but just because it's completely unnecessary. When you're just exploring the world looking for stuff and you accidentally die, you might as well respawn instantly. Respawn times should absolutely be increased if you're fighting bosses or even doing invasions, especially in multiplayer, but if you're in a single player playthrough and you're not fighting a boss, I think respawn times should basically be done away with. At the end of the day though, I don't think it's the biggest deal in the world, and we can move on. Evil biome spread. I can't tell you how many times my jungle has been taken over by the evil biome, even with the chlorophyte helping to slow it. I think that having it off by default, but having the option to turn it on would be ideal. Oftentimes when you enter hard mode in your Terraria world, the corruption will take over a very important part of your world. Whether you have a really cool house set up in the desert and the corruption tries to take that over, or you have the jungle and that just gets destroyed, it can be really annoying to have the corruption or the crimson just ruin your world. If you have a pylon system set up all throughout your world in Terraria, it's almost guaranteed that one of those pylons will become completely useless due to the corruption. Biome spread's not a huge deal in pre-hard mode, but the second you enter hard mode, it starts to go twice as fast, and the corruption can now spread through underground areas. With all of that complaining said, I do think that there's a reason that biome spread is in the game. Having a feature that literally destroys your world over time gives you a big incentive to make progress and fight it off with the remaining time you have. In early hard mode specifically, when biome spread is really fast, you're motivated to go fight a mechanical boss, get the steampunker, buy the Clintaminator, and then save your world from the corruption. As stressful as it might be, that stress kind of adds to the immersion of the game and really gets you invested. On a first playthrough especially, I think that biome spread is actually more helpful than it is harmful. For that reason, I believe that biome spread should not be completely removed from Terraria, but rather it should be a little bit reworked. I think that the corruption / crimson should basically not spread at all in pre-hard mode. After entering hard mode, I do believe that the corruption should be able to spread underground, but I do not like that it spreads at twice the rate it used to. For some reason, biome spread is relatively slow in pre-hard mode, gets really fast after you enter hard mode, and then goes half as fast again after you defeat Plantera. I think that biome spread should be just as slow before Plantera as after Plantera, so now it can spread underground, but it doesn't spread very fast. That makes it a lot easier to protect your worlds, to hollow out certain areas you need to hollow, and preserve your pylons. They could also make it so that NPCs stay in corrupted areas, but that doesn't really make a lot of sense, and it would be too convenient to add to the game. Biome spread is definitely one of the most annoying things in Terraria, Terraria, but I also feel it's one of the most necessary. This next guy says that harpies are the worst thing about Terraria. Harpies are a very frustrating NPC to deal with, especially when you're looking for a shiny red balloon or you're trying to fish in the sky. With that being said, I don't think this is worth saying it's the worst thing in Terraria. I would actually say that there's plenty of other, more annoying enemies in this game. In the jungle alone, you have jungle tortoises, derpies, hornets, spiked jungle slimes. I would say that all of those enemies from this one biome are more annoying than the harpy. Regardless though, I wouldn't say that any of these enemies are the worst thing about Terraria either, as there are definitely bigger flaws with the game. There's a lack of things to do after Moonlord, especially when you get the Zenith, but have nothing to use it on. This is actually one of my biggest complaints about Terraria, and a thing that I think is a very big missed opportunity. Obviously, we don't need another post-Moonlord boss, as that would be completely unnecessary, and the problem of powerful gear near the end would become just as bad, but what I do think the developers of Terraria could do is simply add a boss rush after you defeat the Moonlord. The problem with having no challenge after Moonlord is that you get these really cool items like the Last Prism and the Zenith, except you have no enemies to use them on. A boss rush would be a great way for people to test their new items on a real challenge without Relogic having to add another tier of progression. It would also tie things up nicely, where players would know for certain that there won't be a post-Moonlord boss coming to Terraria ever. I agree there's a lack of things to do after Moonlord, and I think a boss rush would be a very easy way for them to fix that. And last but not least, the final problem with Terraria, the biggest issue with the game is you. Yeah, I guess so. And there you have it. Those are my thoughts on all of the worst things about Terraria. Make sure to leave a comment saying what you think the worst thing about Terraria is, and as always, join the Discord server to have more discussions about this great game. Alright, bye-bye.